What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're finally coming in with Life Story Part 3. Hope you guys do enjoy this video. Drop a like if you do. Also, don't forget to follow all my other social media linked in the description, my Twitter, my Instagram, and hit me up on Snapchat, all that kind of stuff, just to keep up to date with all my other social media shenanigans. But either way, let's dive right into it. So, in the last part, we left off at the end of middle school, and we're going to pick up in the summer that was going into freshman year, right after my 8th grade year. And let me tell you, this is when shit really started to hit the fan for me. What ended up happening was I got my first girlfriend over the summer, and this was a big deal for me because I was a fucking loser. I didn't really do much socially. I didn't have a ton of friends. I just played video games all day and made YouTube videos. That's all I did. So the fact that I got a girlfriend that was also a lot more attractive than she probably should have been considering me was a double thumbs up. Now, granted, the relationship went terribly, and my entire freshman year was kind of fucked because of it. You know, what ended up happening was we dated for like 10 months or so, and pretty much throughout the whole freshman year we dated. You know, we broke up at the end of the year, and that's really all I can even say about my freshman year because all my energy was just devoted into this relationship. It was it was all I cared about. You know, I loved her a lot, and it fucked me up pretty badly when we broke up, I'm not gonna lie. But, this was like all I did freshman year. I didn't have many friends. I didn't really go out with anyone else. I just devoted everything into this relationship, and it ended pretty poorly. But after that relationship ended and it was the beginning of the summer that's going into my sophomore year, I kind of sat there and I thought about what I wanted to do because I realized that I was never going to have this opportunity again. I was never going to be a high schooler again in my life. So I had to sit there and think to myself, what do I really want to do during this time in my life? And I chose have fun. So what I ended up deciding was I was just going to be as social as possible going into my sophomore year and the rest of high school. I was going to go to parties, make friends, just get out there and just have a good fucking high school experience. And that's what I did. Sophomore year rolled around. At the beginning of it, I made a couple new friends. I hadn't really smoked or drank very much or done anything really seriously yet until about halfway through my sophomore year, around like maybe November or December of that year. I smoked for the first time and I got drunk as fuck for the first time as well. And it was a hoot and a holler. I mean, I'll admit that. I don't encourage anybody to try these things, but fucking hell, it was a hoot and a holler. And I started doing it all the time, every weekend, even after school. I go to school high sometimes. I drink a little bit after school. I wouldn't go to school drunk quite yet. And my entire second half of my sophomore year, I just spent partying and getting fucked up and smoking weed and drinking and having a good time. And, I started kind of acting like a goon. I started getting all my bullshit, and I started running into the police a lot. I started getting a slow and steady misdemeanor filled criminal record. I was getting a lot of tickets for possession and paraphernalia and shit like that. I got a station adjustment, luckily, because it was my first offense for a felony theft, what would have been a felony, but instead it didn't have to go to court because I got off really easy. But I went into some guy's garage and stole some really expensive golf clubs because his garage door was open. I wanted to sell them. And I started getting into a lot of trouble and doing some dumb shit. And I got caught stealing alcohol multiple times, but I kept doing it. Whatever. I just wanted to hit the lick. You know how I am. But I started doing a lot of bad shit. When that summer rolled around, I got kicked out of my mom's house for just partying too much. I would just come home pissed drunk or high as fuck every single night. And she was like, I'm tired of it. Just get out. So I went and lived with my dad. Now, my dad lives like a town over, and I still don't really have a relationship with him at all. Throughout this entirety, of this high school experience so far, at this point, at the end of my sophomore year, I don't really have a relationship with him. So I'm like kind of just sitting here thinking to myself, like, damn, this is kind of uncomfortable, but partying every day and just not being home would make it more comfortable. So I just went out every day. I got my first car, halfway through sophomore year. I forgot to mention that. I got my first car at that point, and I was just driving around, picking people up, driving places, getting fucked up. I made some really dumb decisions. I'd crashed that car eventually. It was not fun. I'll leave it at that. But it kind of like that summer taught me a lot about myself, because I was independent.
my dad was never home, so I could just do whatever I wanted all day, and I did, even all night. I would spend the night out all the time. I'd slept in my car for like 4 days straight with a buddy of mine. I'd, spent a couple days on a boat in Chicago. I'd done so much wild shit that summer. I'd gone to a countless number of parties, met so many people, and just that summer really taught me a lot about myself as a person, meeting all those people, having all those experiences. I don't regret a single minute of it, even though it was really what kickstarted my whole drug problem. I don't regret any choices I've ever made in my life, really. They made me what I am today, and I'm glad everything I've ever done, I did. But either way, that summer ended and my junior year rolled around. And junior year is when I started experimenting with harder drugs. And I started messing around with Xanax. I started drinking cold meds, popping triple C, shit like that. And then halfway through my junior year, my grades were shit. And my counselor basically told me, yeah, you have to go to this alternative school or you're not going to graduate on time. So I was like, all right, I'll go to the alternative school. And I went there and I met so many people. I met Ashton, I met just all these characters that are in my stories are either, alumni of that school, currently attending that school, or were like once attending that school, maybe before I got there even, or like they just know people there, that school, just like all the plugs went there. So I met so many people there and I started doing so many harder drugs. And I'm not going to get too specific with all of this portion of my life because I feel that I've gotten specific enough with all of my videos that you guys have probably browsed through and seen here and there. I feel like that would just be a waste of time and me kind of retelling things that I've already told. But moral of the story is I kind of fucked my life up. I really started doing hard drugs. I put all my focus not into being this social, outgoing, nice guy that I always was when I was sober, or even just when I was only smoking, to being this person who just would do anything to get fucked up, would just do anything for drugs. Like, I didn't care about other people. I didn't give a fuck. I just wanted to get high for the most part. There was very few people in my life that I honestly cared about. I mean, definitely a handful. But, as that junior year came to an end, I'd started to run into some serious consequences of my drug use. My parents were getting really sick of it. I couldn't really handle it, I guess. I couldn't really maintain myself, and I was just doing all these hard drugs all the time. Ketamine. I tried everything. I tried fucking everything except for like heroin and meth, and those other crazy fucking drugs like Flocka and shit. But, I kind of come to realize the consequences. And, I've been living with my mom through most of my junior year. I got kicked out again that next summer going into my senior year. Had to live with my dad, started school. And as that summer went on, I kind of scaled back on the drug use. I really stuck to smoking weed and drinking. That's really all I did. And eventually that became just smoking weed and popping tabs every now and then, but it was still too much for me. And as that school year began, I remember since I lived with him, I couldn't drive to, I couldn't go to my old school because I crashed my car again. I'd crashed like 2 cars at this point. So I had to go to the school that was closer to my dad's house. And I went 2 days. I didn't know anybody. I hated all my classes and I dropped out. And I started just sitting at home selling drugs and working at a grocery store to maintain how much weed I wanted to smoke. Because I smoked an ungodly amount of marijuana every single day. I smoked way too much. And I kind of didn't really mention it. I skipped over it a little bit, but throughout most of my drug use, I would kind of sell whatever drug I was doing. So if I was actively into Xans, I'd pick up extras and sell them to cover the expenses. I wouldn't profit a ton, but I profit enough where like I could be like, yeah, I'm going to get more fucked up. And it was a pretty shitty mentality. But either way, junior year, sucked dick. Senior year, I dropped out. And, my first couple months of being dropped out, all I really did was sit at home and smoke weed. And then I went to rehab on October 28th, 2016. And I made the video on that. I'm not going to go into detail about what caused that or anything. Just going to say that happened. And I didn't get out for 2 months. I got out like right before Christmas, I think. So just under 2 months. And during my time in there, being stuck in there, knowing I had really no outside contact except for like the two people's phone numbers I remembered, and I couldn't connect to the internet, couldn't do any of the things I wanted to do, and I was just locked in there, and I couldn't even smoke a cigarette or anything. Sucked dick, but it really taught me, you know, it really kind of changed my perspective on everything. As I stayed in there longer, I started to actually like it and enjoy the company of the people around me. And it really taught me a lot about myself. And it really kind of made me think, like, damn, I haven't felt this way in a long time. Like, I really need to kind of rethink whether the shit I'm doing and putting into my body and the drugs I'm doing is really worth it. Because, I hadn't felt that genuine, just like happiness and feeling of fun from just being around people and playing like board games and shit in a long ass time. It felt weird to me, but it was good. So getting out of there, I kind of decided, fuck it. I'm over it. I'm not doing shit. I'm done. I'm tired of it. I'm not going to be doing drugs anymore. And since I got out of rehab, that's kind of up to this point in my life currently. I haven't really done any I actually haven't done any hard drugs now that I think about it. I will admit that I've smoked some weed here and there, if I'm being real with you. So you guys can stop asking that fucking question. I do chief here and there, or I have, but either way, not gonna go into that. But beyond that, I haven't touched anything, and I have no desire to, because it's just not worth it for me. I'm living back with my mom again now. I'm actually productive and improving my life and working hard and accomplishing things on a daily basis. And it's like, when I was doing drugs, I never had that. I never was able to do that. So it's something new and it's something good for me. And that's kind of where I just want to wrap it up, I guess. I mean, and there's not much more to say beyond that. I mean, after that freshman year relationship, in terms of the whole like romantic side of things, I've never dated a girl again. I dated like one girl for like 3 weeks, but most girls that I've encountered have been kind of like friends with benefits. Like, some of them have like leaned close to a relationship, but like no title on it. But yeah, I mean, I've really just kind of, the majority of my life has been spent mainly with myself. I've been throughout my life a fairly isolated person, and that's a trait of me that's both good and bad. It allows me to really sit and think and process things a lot better, and I think it makes me a lot more of a how do I put it? A lot more of a, I guess, careful person, because since I isolate a lot and I spend a lot of time alone, throughout my whole life, I always have. I've never had a ton of friends. I've just had, people that I affiliate with. And even then, I always love my alone time. And, throughout my life, the one thing that's benefited me in the best way, or the one thing that's given me is, I always think before I do. I always sit and I plan out what I'm going to do in the following days of the week. Like, for example, today I haven't done shit. So I've been sitting here all day thinking like, oh, what am I going to do tomorrow? What am I going to do the next couple days? What am I going to do this weekend, this upcoming weekend? What's the plan? How much money am I going to spend on this and that? And what am I doing? And it makes me a lot more of a precise, careful, well-planned person, I guess. So it's, yeah, I guess in a sense I'm kind of antisocial, but at the same time I'm very like outgoing. It's odd. It's like I isolate myself a lot, but then when I'm with people, I'm like very outgoing. But either way, yeah, that's my life story. I don't really have much else to put in here. So I guess I'm just gonna leave it at that. Hope you guys enjoyed this little mini series here. Drop a like if you did. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.